called Ukrainian Students for Freedom. We are the FUP team. We are the ones who invited him because we think that this guy is one of the most active people I have personally met, who's done a lot of things and who has achieved many great things for, you know, and he's in his 20s and has been pretty much active. Yes, absolutely. Has been pretty much active in all of these movements, especially libertarian movements. And today we want to talk a little bit about his organization, about what he wants to do and what he wants to change, and his view on all of these political events which are going on in Ukraine. And of course, we're waiting for your questions and comments, whatever you may find interesting and everything. So before asking questions, I want to introduce Igor. Igor is a founder of the English school.
Yeah.
Yep, is a founder of the English school called English Who. He's been also pretty much active in all of these libertarian movements, and he's for the economic freedoms. And me, my name is Rashid, and I am also a member of many different organizations, but I'm also proud of being a part of this organization called Ukrainian Students for Freedom. Okay, then
I hope you didn't say anything bad about me.
No, absolutely. No, I didn't.
I will listen after.
Yes.
Yeah. First of all, how are you, Daniil? How's your kind of isolation time? Yeah, now.
Hi, folks. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I hope you can hear me properly, because right now I'm on my balcony, which is my last resort of going out of self-isolation, just walking all around in the balcony. So yeah, I mean, it's all crazy because it's just shocked all of us, because eventually it showed us that we go to cinema, we go to some clubs, eating some food, and that's all. So we don't have any hobbies. I mean, and people on their own in their homes, and so that. And me as well. Actually, I've started to do puzzles, So yeah, I'm pretty in depression right now.
Yeah, no, I mean,
can I ask you, can you maybe put your microphone close to your mouth? Because
okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
that's way better.
Yeah, it's better. Thank you.
Okay.
So your isolation and your quarantine is going pretty much of you're kind of depressed and a little bit of that. But even though it's like the quarantine time, you still find something useful to do, right? You still take part in many activities and trying to do stuff.
Yeah, sure. So as the active CEO of Ukrainian Students for Freedom, I have to do all this stuff, except I'm much less effective right now, because eventually what started to appear is that I have to be in the office to work properly, 100%, because right now it's much harder. And the other part of it, we have a huge part of us offline events. It's educational events. It's activist groups gathering, some meetups, a lot of different stuff. We can talk about it in the future, but a lot of them depends on a big gathering of people, which is prohibited right now. And it's tough. But at the same time, I've started to pay more attention to my lack of some skills and knowledge. And recently, because we are the part of Atlas Network, it's for people who don't know, you should go atlasnetwork.org. It's the biggest pro-market network on the planet, uniting 500 think tanks all around the world. And basically they have these courses from different economists, and I found really interesting to even ask them questions and hear their perspective on the economics and how economy of even the world will be after the COVID-19. So yeah, I mean, it depends. Thinking about depression was a joke. I go really often because I have a wonderful dog, so I have excuse to go out and not to be bullied by other people that I'm out without a mask. So yeah, in the end of the day, it's not so bad at all. The problem is the huge part of our work is on hold right now. So yeah,
Absolutely. So what I want to ask you, because you a little bit talked about the Atlas Network, you said all of these, some things which people may not actually know. So, but also people may not know about.
Can I stop for a sec?
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Just wanna like say a few important things. Like today we have. First of all, it's really cool if you will ask some question and we will really see what you wanna know. And for today, as I thought, we will speak about few important topics. What we have, like first, it's your NGO, which called Ukrainian Students for the Liberty, or
for freedom.
Freedom, And second one, it's actually how it's called in English?
Libertarianism.
Libertarianism,
Yeah, I've
and third important, it's kind of this how it's called trial to going inside the Verkhovna Rada, and make some I don't know, a new thing, for you.
I mean, yes.
Not for you, for Daniil.
For the people of Ukraine. So why he's saying that, because I've told most of the people I've written in the description that you are one of those people who influenced a lot of bills, and not a lot of bills, but some bills passed by the Verkhovna Rada on a number of serious issues. I've said that you are also taking part in in all of these activities, and you are sort of holding a lot of public speeches and public speaking conferences, and this is why we want to talk a little bit about that. But of course, the first important question I want to ask you: what is Ukrainian Students for Freedom? What's that? What's this organization focusing on? And why would you be one of the leaders of this organization? How would you come to the point when you understood that you were a libertarian?
Okay, so I will answer this question really shortly, because I do it all the time and it gets pretty boring. So Ukrainian Students for Freedom is the biggest libertarian organization in Eastern Europe. We unite almost 150 volunteers all around Ukraine in 11 regions. So what is the main thing? We were established in 2017, and as Igor rightfully mentioned, as Ukrainian Students for Liberty. But the thing is, after 1 year, we got split from the main, which is Students for Liberty International, because we are focusing more on legislature and lobbying interest, basically, of young people and Ukrainians in general. And Students for Liberty cannot do that. They do only educational part. So therefore, we have to just split from them, from a perspective of view that they will have troubles in the United States of America because of their tax status. So in 2019, 18, we split from them, and then we become an independent Students for Freedom NGO with our own budgets, our own ideas, and the strategy. So what are those three main ideas and three main objectives that we have? Well, first is we are uniting people. We find people who are pro-freedom in two ways: economical and social, but mainly economical. It means that we believe that government doesn't have a clue what to do with our lives. Therefore, the only person who knows what to do with their life is the individual. It's me and you, and any minister in any cabinet or whatever, any other person doesn't know a hell about it. So you have to go and grab your dream from just grab it and have it. And government shouldn't have any influence on your decisions. Therefore, to do that, you have to have the capacity to open your own business, trade freely, do whatever you want, which doesn't hurt any other person. And it's connected to social freedoms as well. So it means that you should, be, it doesn't matter who you love and who you meet and who you care about. It matters that you are not hurting other people. That's all. We don't care about any other social issues. It's not hurting other people, way of life and being themselves. So we unite these people. And then the question, what to do with these folks? What we should, we have some number of people selected from all the Ukraine. Then we decided to have a leadership program. And the main purpose of leadership program that we are gathering these folks together just to show them that you are not alone. Because it's really important that such folks who believe in such ideals usually are, are not really connected to the whole movement, and that's really understanding how big the thing is, and the Atlas Net, how huge Atlas Network, and how huge the whole libertarianism movement right now on the planet, and how powerful it is. So we, they bring them together, and then we educate them. We give them some ideas how to formulate, how to argue, how to present themselves, how to have a PR campaign, how to be successful in business, something like that. This is the idea behind the leadership program. And then we mobilize it. So basically we unite, educate, and mobilize. And mobilization means, as you rightfully mentioned, means pushing legislature to do what we believe is rightful. For example, I'm not a really big lobbyist, okay? I was one of the co-authors of legislation which was registered in Verkhovna Rada, but unfortunately didn't pass because early re-elections. But hopefully we will do it one more time, maybe this or next
What's the
year.
bill about? What's the bill about?
Yeah, and I'm going to. The bill is about the medical, it's about medical cannabis. The idea is that a person who is suffering from some horrible disease, which are, have a huge spectrum, and orthodoxal, treatment doesn't help this person. This person basically can treat and relax pain and have a relief from pain by using medical cannabis. It's not about smoking weed, wait for it, but it's more about pain killing. And I was one of the members who were writing and drafting the bill, and it was registered. But hopefully, we will, reestablish it this, this season, maybe like next year. And another one, the huge organization which is called Ukrainian Economic Freedom Foundation. You just go and look for them. They are big. They are real lobbyists. These folks are doing really, really powerful lobbying, and they were actually one of the folks who were drafting the whole bill about agricultural lands, and we were part of it as well. We were helping them with, people support, and it was really, really, controversial, and eventually it passed, and Zelensky, as far as I know, signed it like last week. So it will take place in next year and will be enforced in next year. So it was another huge win for us. And right now, I think we'll help after the quarantine, which hopefully ends in something about a month. We will help them to draft and pass the bill about the automobiles from Europe, as you know, the Eurobляхи, how we call them.
Yes.
About the cars on European plates, which will eventually liberalize all trade, car trade with Europe. So hopefully it will help as well. And we'll have like minor issues as well, but I'm just focusing on the most, I think, important ones. That's it.
Absolutely. Okay. Michael is here. Michael is another, by the way, FUP podcaster with us. So he's also joining us to talk a little bit about all of these things, what you've said. So
we almost changed you, Michael.
Yeah, we thought of removing you from the podcast. So the thing is this. I do remember, I don't want to say everything, because I was at this event in August, and you said one interesting thing, that you were not really libertarian back in the day, right? So what influenced your view on all of these things, and what sort of pushed you to think that all of these economic freedoms and all of these freedoms of an individual are the most important thing in life? Like, the government should not be involved in any economic processes and businesses and all of these things. What made you think that way, and what influenced your sort of view on
and
all
where
of
it
these
actually
things?
works?
Yeah. Maybe some example. Which country could be a model of that?
Sure. So there's two questions in one. I'll start with my own experience and really fastly shift to another one about examples. 2 weeks ago, I had not a conversation, but we had a Zoom call with Warren Smith, who is Nobel Prize winner in economics. And he said, well, eventually I wasn't a libertarian because he is. I wasn't a libertarian back in the day before I started doing experiments, like economic experiments on the campuses. And then eventually I understood that whole ideas that was in the books by some old Austrian folks and some maybe Chicago boys are actually working. There are the whole ideas that are maybe looking really weird to you and not working in real life. There are actually working. And it was the same case for me. I was more on the right side, which made for me shift really easily, because libertarianism is kind of a right ideology if you put it on a spectrum. But I was really far right. I was not a national socialist, not that type of folks, but I was more like Mussolini guy, like in Russia, there's a lot of them right now. I was like a fascist or something. I was like liking this idea that some guy should come, also destroy this corruption, these bad things in Ukraine, reindustrialize us, just work for it, and we'll have wonderful economic growth with a powerful hands. But after it, I was, as a right folk, I was having some debate club, and there was a guy, actually, it's really disappointing for me, but I always forgot his name. He was from Azerbaijan or Kyrgyzstan, something like that. And he was economist. And he was saying, folks, we have in post-Soviet countries the cheapest internet on the planet. So the cheapest world web that ever existed. Right now we have Iran, for example, or some other folks have cheapest internet, but still Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, all stands, we have really, really cheap internet. And he asked, why does it happen? So what is the main, why did it happen? Yeah, what is the main reason? And I said, well, maybe because we have poor people. And I say, yeah, but we have, much poorer countries like in Africa where internet is costing much, much higher. I said, well, because we're near to Europe where we have all these webs. And he said, yes, but you have examples of Moldova, or you have examples of Turkey where we have pretty poor people, but still really, really high expensive internet. And I say, because there wasn't any regulation when internet started in Ukraine. So basically, government didn't pay any attention to internet. The internet just appeared spontaneously by spontaneous order. And it said, this is a spontaneous order. And then I said, doesn't look really compelling to me, doesn't look really powerful argument. And then I started reading Mises, Hayek, something about some stuff from Friedman, Milton Friedman. There was a lot of economists I was starting reading about this idea of spontaneous order. So, and in the end of it, eventually I started to believe that in Ukraine, where we have such a poor and weak institutions, where we have such a horrible corruptions, and we have a huge connection and ties to Russia with their ideas of despoty, free Ukraine will be much more powerful and much more independent than any dictatorship possibly imagined. So if we have one dictator with this level of corruption and this level of distrust to governments, eventually this dictator will have to rely on some power, for example, on Russian power or Belarusian power or something like that. And eventually we will have another Belarus with a horrible dictatorship, with oppressing people, and nothing will actually happen. On the other hand, we have another solution, which says, well, you can free markets, you can free people, and these people will come up with the best solution without the government. Mm-hmm. And day by day, by learning, I decided, yeah, this is a compelling idea. And the second part, it's actually not my answer. This question was asked during Free Generation Forum, the big conference that we do, hopefully we'll do next year, even autumn, because I think COVID will go away, hopefully. So there was a wonderful writer, Tom Palmer. He's from the United States of America, and he answered this question in such way. Libertarianism is not about an utopia. It's not about finding some ideal country where we can say, this is a free market country, or we can pick and say, this is the most libertarian one. No, it's about improving people's life by small changes. It's about, for example, we liberate, market of sugar in US, or we liberate market of corn in England, or we liberate market of oil in Belarus, or something like that. And this eventually improves people's lives who are connected to it, who are flourishing from it, and who has this, who are growing better and bigger lives and bigger capitals because of the free market. Sorry, I think my camera, it's back. Eventually we wouldn't have any utopia. But if you want to pick one country or a group of countries where libertarianism was established, I would say it's second part of the 19th century and the first part of 20th century before World War, in England, in the United States of America after the slavery, and I believe in some countries in Europe as well, but you have to look on their stats what was going on there. I can share a link where you can see economic freedoms of countries throughout the history, how they're performing it, and you will see that lots of countries in the second part of the 19th century and right before the First World War, there was a huge number of free economies was flourishing, and this. Actually, we take it for granted. I encourage all who hear us in this conference to go and Google the name. It's Deidre McCloskey. It's economist who eventually started to think about how good our life right now is comparing to, for example, 18th or even 19th century. And if you look on the graphs and state that GDP per capita, GDP by country, duration of life, mortality of children, I don't know, number of people in poverty, you will see that all numbers are going like this. So like a stick, like a hockey stick. So it's going like flat all of our history. And then in the middle of 19th century, just poops, it's like jumping really, fast on its top. And if you think about that and you will start searching for ideas, what happens in the second part of 19th century except industrial revolution, because it's a consequences, not the main thing that happened, this enrichment began. And if you look at that, there's different answers on this question. And I do encourage you to look there, but my own understanding that economic freedoms actually help to, jump from this historical poverty and help all of us flourish as we flourish right now. So, and if you look on any country, it was doing really big jumps. For example, South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, all of them, these tigers, because this was really poor countries before they were implementing their, their reforms. And if you look, yes, there was dictatorship, surely, which is not suitable for Ukraine, as I mentioned. But if you look on the reforms they were doing like really hardcore economic liberalization, even with, some devastating consequences for some people. But at the end of the day, it helped. And finalizing my question, what we should do, there wonderful research paper by Oleg Gavrilishin. It's a Ukrainian economist who lives in Canada, I suppose. It's named 25 years of ex-communist countries reforms, something like that. And this is analyzing how all post-Soviet countries, Poland, Baltics, all of the ex-USSR and ex-socialist blocs were performing throughout the last 25 years, if you look at their economic status and what they were doing for that. And you will see that only countries who are doing really rapid and really dramatic and really pro-market reforms are now much better than all other countries. You can see it in Baltics, you can see it in Czech Republic, you can see it in Poland, and you cannot see it in Ukraine, Belarus, even Russia, or other big economies who are not performing really good if we're talking about GDP per capita, which means how rich people are, right? So yeah, I would say it's a good recipe for us right now. And listen, I'm not saying that I know all answers, because if I would, maybe I would have already a Nobel Prize in economics. But I think that we have to go really in depth on understanding how to implement them, understanding Ukrainian culture and Ukrainian specifics. But at the same time, we have to understand that there's no other way except this one for us, because all other, experienced and rich folks has done it, and there is just no way for us to go, way around.
Okay. Can you maybe tell if you maybe will be in Verkhovna Rada now, what will be your first free law, for implementing with these ideas maybe connected, or just your main three ideas here, what you wanna solve in Ukraine in a short time maybe?
Yeah, because in a lot of cases, people I've met a lot of people who complain about stuff, right? And I've talked to a lot of people who say, and I'm not, telling that's you or anybody. I'm just saying as, in a matter of how many people say all of these things. But that's interesting how people like you, those active people, those who are changing a certain thing, what would you do in this case? I mean, if you were the president, if you were the prime minister, or maybe what Igor said, if you were a huge dude in the Supreme Council, Verkhovna Rada.
Okay, so we have here 3 different questions because you're asking about 3 different branches.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
which is complicated podcast, yeah.
I mean, no, it's not complicated. It's like 3 different things that have to tackle. I mean, if you're a president, the only thing you eventually can do by constitution is just to lead your military and do foreign affairs.
Absolutely. No, but
not
this
in Ukraine, not in Ukraine.
But this is
like everything, though. Actually, I think in all countries on post-Soviet Union, yeah, president, it's like the person, it's a monarch, yeah, it's a type, yeah. It's everything like who solve and responsible on all action, what that's acting in the country inside.
That's pretty interesting, because why I'm asking this, why I'm asking about 3 different branches, because I do know all of the duties of the president, of the person who is responsible for all of these things, but I do understand if you were a lawmaker, just a small dude in a small political party, you would not be very, you wouldn't be able to change much, right? This is what I mean.
Right,
but
yeah.
We've seen a lot of examples like that, and especially now if there's just one political party which has taken over the whole government, and back in this argument about if you were the president, right now what we see is that one political party which has overtaken the whole government, and he is actually influencing a lot of decisions made by his political party and all of these things, and it was before. And it's still happening now. So the separation of powers, which is a very, very important thing, is not really that effective in Ukraine right now. So that's why I'm asking this. And maybe if to paraphrase my question, I would ask, what would you choose and what do you think would be the most beneficial for Ukraine? I mean, a certain position where you would be able to change things.
Yeah,
well, okay.
I have a question for you, Rashid, but yeah, please go ahead and answer that.
I don't know, it's really, it's more complicated right now. Thank you so much.
The thing is, like, Rashid gave like a whole basis, a whole theory, a whole concept, and he's like, okay, now based on my concept, please answer my question.
Yeah. Okay.
Dudes, I'm sorry,
no,
dudes.
No, no, first of all, I have to, have a counter arguments, like some other ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in Ukraine right now we have this separation of powers is not working, but it's not working because president has any official power over the parliament. Technically parliament can even start impeaching him, but the problem is that his party is still controlled by him because it has a high ratings, you see. And Ukraine, if the ratings of president will go down, his legitimacy will go down as well. It's happened with Yushchenko like a long time before. And in the same time, I would say, okay, so there's always a conflict inside Ukraine between prime minister and president. It happens all the time. It's our own checks and balances that we have in this country. It's that president is always trying to be the supreme enforcer, the head of the head of the whole cabinet of ministers. Actually, he is not, and there's prime minister who has officially all duties and all responsibilities. So there always struggle between two. And the problem we have with our prime ministers right now, because they're not leaders, because it was chosen in order for president to be suitable as a vice president. They're not really prime minister that's really choosing anything. So they're not really. Therefore, we don't have any reforms because these folks say, okay, so let Zelensky decide, and these guys say, okay, but prime minister has to decide. And the prime minister said, no, you choose me because I'm not deciding, I'm just your vice president. So, there's a huge struggle between two right now. And it was the same when Goncharuk started doing something which was not in the style of Zelensky. That's just, guy, go away. So, it's dependable. But if we say, for example, right now, tomorrow I'll wake up in a nightmare and tomorrow I'm Zelensky, which is a horrible thing to be, but okay. I would do 3 main things, I would say. First thing, and the first main problem that we have in Ukraine, the biggest problem we have in Ukraine, and all other problems are connected to this problem, is a huge poverty. it's enormous poverty to European standards. If we compare Ukrainian GDP per capita, if we compare consumption day by day or weekly consumption or even year consumption, if we compare all numbers, even life, you know, how long is life for Ukraine, like life expectancy of Ukrainians. Eventually, you will see that we're a really poor country on the level of Africa right now. But we started really good. You know, in the 90s, we're by German big bank predicted that Ukraine will be, you know, second France of Europe, will be like, you know, third country on the whole continent, except, you know, if we don't say that Russia is part of Europe, but it will be a huge economy with enormous potential, and we just wasted. Why did we do that? Because we have a huge number of the governmental, you know, connected factories, governmental regulations, laws. So it's a complicated thing. But first thing is poverty. So how do we solve, you know, how do we have, what is the solution to this poverty? How do we, you know, make people more rich? And eventually it's really easy. You make them spend less and you make them earn more. Well, it's always obviously, but in the end of the day, they'll have more money to invest in themselves, in their children, buy stuff, you know, buy new flats, move into a better, you know, parts of a city or even better cities or in other countries. It depends on their life choices. But we have to have them spend less and earn more. How do we do it? If we want to them earn more, we do two things. First thing, we have a new law in, how you call it, labor market. So we liberalize labor market for people freely be involved in any kind of contract they want. Because right now, if you open our labor laws, they will start with the preamble that we are enforcing ideas of the Soviet Socialist Republic, doing that, and that. So it's like written still in our labor, you know, things. We are part of it because the laws are, you know, old and they're not, you know, suitable. And the whole labor reform, as far as I know right now, is stopped. It was started by Goncharuk, Prime Minister, and just it didn't go well. So we are doing labor reform. And secondly, we lower taxes for people. Right now, every person in this country who is not individual entrepreneur, not FUP, are paying 20% of their salary in taxes. So on every fifth hryvnia you earn is paid to federal government, which is unacceptable for such a poor country. It's just not okay. So we just lowering these taxes for folks. People shouldn't pay so much money to the government. It's not how it should work. And if you want me to spend another hour saying what would I do, I can spend it and tell you how to do it, you know, properly in details and the numbers. But at the same time, it's my idea. So they will earn more. They will pay less taxes, and there will be more possibilities for them to be, you know, involved in some working, which is not technically right now officially work. And the second part, how they spend less. Well, first of all, we open Ukrainian market to international business. Because right now, the huge problem, if you were abroad, for example, which is, I think if you know English is a thing that you should do, first of all. If you've been abroad, you will see that, for example, H&M in Poland or H&M in US is much cheaper than in Ukraine, which doesn't make any sense if you understand. So Ukraine is a poor country, right? We have poor people. We have lots of poor people. And the market is smaller. But at the same time, we have goods that are more expensive than in Poland, which has more, you know, rich folks, and we have much more income. And we have the United States of America, which is, you know, the biggest and the richest economy on the planet right now. So how did it happen? And it happened because, and one of the problems, we have import and export taxes and tariffs, which collects from people, from goods, from clothes that you buy, from food that you want, from your avocado in your fridge, from anything is collected import tax, which is not acceptable in Ukrainian ideas. So we just lowered them. And I believe in recent days, I was reading some paper articles which show that the poor people spend the most part of their money on food, which already solved by import, you know, reform, and clothing, which already solved. And the other thing they're trying to, you know, just consume, so they go restaurants, bars, and everything like that. So if you want to first of all, poor folks to spend less money, just lower taxes on goods, lower taxes, which we have VAT, what added the tax, you pay like 20% from anything you buy in the market, it goes to the government as well. So lower them. And eventually we will have much better idea with poverty. Second part, which is really important, is, and I think you can solve it only when you are in position of a president. So, you know, as an MP or member of parliament, or even some high folk in the parliament, you will not have ability to solve it. And this problem is, you know, how you call it in Ukrainian is, it's Ukrainians like, give me sex, rule of law in English. So the problem in Ukraine is rule of law. We don't have property rights. We don't have intellectual property. We don't have any idea. So basically, last, I think 3 weeks before this call, what happened, the folks from the parliament, from a ruling party, just went and captured someone's business. So basically they're, you know, just going with guns and like in 90s taking your business out, which is unacceptable. And you will not see any new money flowing into country while we have such a huge problem. We don't have property rights. Property should be protected by law, and it should be like this the most same right that you have in this country. You have property rights, and then anything else, like even right on your life. So the property rights has to be the most essential, the most crucial, the most basic part that should be implemented in Ukraine. And you can do it only through judge reform, and you can only do it through reform of police, which was failed by previous presidents and previous and right now Minister of Internal Affairs. And we have to have this rule of law be set in place, because without it, we will not see any new companies from abroad coming into Ukraine. We don't have Apple Store. We didn't have IKEA for a long time. Like IKEA in Russia appeared in 2006 or 4 or 7, something like that. So like 10 years before us. We don't have Starbucks. We don't have Burger King. It's not because we have a really small market. We have much smaller markets with such companies. It's because these companies are afraid of our folks. They're afraid of our uncertain and unreally reliable market. And they will not be afraid only when we have a rule of law. And the third but not the least is inflow of basically money from the outside. We have to have more and more shares of international companies inside the Ukraine. And only after that we will see some economic growth. Ukraine can grow by, I think, 10% GDP plus 10% each year. Because if you see, the same reforms were done in Ireland, and you don't really think that Ireland is a big country, right? You don't think Ireland is a big economic power hub. You don't just, Ireland is not something that you will, in your head connect to some economic boom, economic growth. But at the same time, Ireland was growing by 25% in a year, plus 25% of the GDP plus year. So in 4 years, their economic will double, growing 25% a year. And we have such capacity. We have really, really smart people living here. We have good conditions. We have resources. We have lots and really cheap labor power. We have like folks who can work really cheaply. And the things that are stopping people from going in here, even not regulations, but rule of law, and that they're not certain that if they invest in our country, that will have their money back. Because it's a risky market, and it's too risky for Europeans, it's too risky for US, and the only folks who are not, believe that this market is risky is Chinese. And we have this problem right now when the whole world is turning on, possible Cold War on China. We have this problem that our main and the biggest trade partner by country is China. We export and import most from China. If we, okay, you can say that EU is our biggest trade partner with 40%, but EU is not one country. If we go country by country, China is number one, not even Russia. And right now, we have such problem. And for example, if United States of America say, okay, folks, now, like in Cold War, every country on this planet has to choose sides. And if they ask our country, which side gonna we choose? And it's really a hard question. We dependent on countries who are not, and investments who are not relying on the same risks. So if we open market, if we make rule of law our central and property rights our central idea, we'll have more inflow from more civilized countries, which make us more civilized country, you know, in a diplomatic way. So yeah, if it's in short, I would say that way. So yeah, go ahead and, you know.
I mean, that's, yeah, I think like,
really in short.
Yeah, I think like the problem here is that, yeah, one podcast would not be enough to cover all of these things, because there is so many interesting things we could discuss and we could talk about. But what reminds me of what you were saying about the taxation, about all of these economic freedoms and all, and don't get me wrong, it reminds me of one political party which is not very popular, and which I'm not trying to associate you or any organization or myself with, called 510, right? Which is also sort of a libertarian political party. Yeah. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So, and where do you stand in that? Where do you stand with that political party? Are you, you know, on the same page, or you still have different opinion and views on all of these things? Because what you were saying is basically what that dude is saying most of the time, right?
No, the thing is, what they're doing
something with the internet, yeah?
No,
is it me or? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, great. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it was some problem with maybe my Wi-Fi. So yeah, folks, I think my phone maybe dies sometimes, so I will just jump on the computer, like, you know, after my phone is dead. So
okay.
Yeah, eventually, shortly, about 510, they're doing it other way around, because first of all, you have to have this electoral base who is supporting this ideas, and then go in politics, then go there. On the other hand, we have these people you are talking to, for example, on the streets, or your relatives, or your family, or your friends. They're not familiar with the whole thing you are talking about, and for you, is some just guy or freak, or some part of a cult, or some, you know, unreliable, people-hating, stupid ideas. What we're trying to do, we do popularizing them, okay? Mm-hmm. So, and after these ideas are acceptable, for example, I think we need something about 5 or maybe 10 more years after we have this, you know, law where you can buy and sell agricultural land, before we will have people who are supporting it. Because the problem is, you have a lot of, you know, reforms that will not be supported by a lot of people, but at the same time, it's the necessity reforms. So you need some kind of a suicide squad in a cabinet of ministers who will say, okay, I will put my own political future on the table. I will do all what is needed. And the things that will be needed will hurt people, okay? They will cut their privileges. They will cut their free stuff. They will take free stuff from them. They will do some really painful things. And I'm not really believe that there's any political party. I most believe that someday, miraculously, some libertarians may be appointed to some points, you know, in cabinet of ministers and do much better stuff, or be in prime minister, like happened in Poland with Brzezinski, or with Balcerowicz, or in Georgia with Kachabin-Dukidze, and a lot of folks who were just not popular, you know. Yeah.
What about Saakashvili being appointed here, because he's also one of the...
Yeah, but he was a political face, okay? He was a popular guy, like Zelensky. He wasn't doing reforms. He's not effective in this stuff. That's why I'm not supporting his appointment in Ukraine. He was just, you know, do more, because he liked to be in a center of attention, his main thing. But a lot of other people who was constructing these reforms in Georgia. But at the same time, with 510, shortly, 510 ended when Balashov was saying that, you know, this activist Ternenko was actually a killer. So he's saying on the television, he was on some Russian-leaning channel, and saying out loud that Ternenko, the guy who was protecting himself and his family from intruders, are actually murdered. He wasn't doing self-defense. He was doing murdering people. And for me, this guy and his whole political movement is ended. You know, if we look on their political spectrum, they are just horrible.
Your camera is off?
and he's off.
I think his phone died, but it's okay. We could still go on. Pretty interesting discussion. Yeah. What?
Yeah. No, just wondering if the viewers know, and if you guys know what the story with Sternenko and what happened to him and why exactly.
I mean, yeah. It's okay. I don't want to speak too much, guys. If there's anything you want to say, or Igor, if you want to answer that one.
About Sternenko?
Yeah. I mean, it's been pretty much for many years.
I don't remember who is this guy, but he's kind of the activist too. Yeah, he's
an activist. Okay, so in 2015-14, he was like, since a very early age, probably my age, he became one of the guys who was a leader of Odessa Pravy sector, and he started his whole like this movement in active citizen participation from that, and that's exactly what influenced his decision to take part in that. But anyways, what happened was that he had 3 assaults on him, which nearly killed the dude, and he defended himself 3 times, and probably the last time when he was trying to defend himself, the guy was shot, or the guy died. I mean, the guy who was attacking him.
Yeah.
So right now what's going on is that a lot of prosecutors, when they come in, they say, hey, he's a killer. And he killed that person, he's guilty one. But no one is saying that guy protected himself from a killer, right? From a murder. So what Daniil was saying is about Balashov. Again, he did say that not only on one Russian TV channel, he said that on many different channels, saying either Sternenko is a SBU agent, right? This is why no one is prosecuting the dude for killing another guy. And he then said that he is a murderer and he has to be in prison. So that's the briefly, that's the story about Sternenko. And if you want to check more, you should go to his
yeah. And I remember
YouTube channel.
Like, I heard about the story, kind of like if not mistaken, the one court decided that he's it was okay, in a few words, and now like they come this case bring the same case back again,
Mm-hmm.
and like this problem come again. I think like it's not my how it's called, my cup of tea, because like I think the best court in the world should decide by themselves.
I mean, yes, the most independent and the freest court ever.
Yeah. So we'll see what's happened. I don't know, a lot of questions for our judge system, it's called, or how it's called, but I don't know, the same as this case with Zaitseva and the guy who, how it's called, the crash accident, then they had like both they had 10 years to the prison.
Yes. So he, I'm sorry, Daniil is writing me on Facebook. I'm just gonna send him the link to this conference.
That's cool that you pronounce it. Yeah.
What exactly? No, I mean, it's okay, just for people to know that he's coming back.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's not
the best way to ignore someone, just stop in the middle of the sentence or of the middle of the world.
Absolutely. Maybe this would happen. Maybe maybe people would think that he had to go and he just finished the conversation. That's it. So
he's libertarian. Come on.
Absolutely. He does whatever he wants.
The most freedom guy. Yeah.
Absolutely.
At least in this FUP podcast team.
Yeah. No, I'm one of the dudes who's actually, I'm a member of this movement. So yeah.
You are libertarian too, yeah?
Yeah, I'm kind of, yes. I could say that. I'm for the economic freedoms. I'm
the guy who spent like all his quarantine at home.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's total libertarian, you know. Like,
yeah, I mean, I've done a lot, dude. I've been more active at home than ever before. But the thing is this: I may disagree on some things, but I'm for all of the economics freedoms we're talking about here, and this is a very important part, and that's an amazing part about the organization. So he's coming back.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
I think he's going to be. Oh, okay. So he's back.
Fast enough.
Yes, absolutely. That's great. That welcome back. Yeah, welcome back.
You found the new headphones.
Yeah, we missed you.
We missed you. Pause for you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So
can you hear me, folks?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've thought about all of the questions we asked, and you were like, "Hey, I got to come back." So
yeah, I'm going to breathe on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've talked about a little bit about the 510. So I don't want to focus a lot on them, on this political party. I don't want to either like make them popular or anything.
It's just the one guy kind of close to. I don't know. For me,
I'm just saying, like his political views.
Yeah,
his political views are pretty much close to what Daniil was talking about here. This is why I was asking this.
But at the same time, they weren't coherent, you see, because he was saying the guy who was doing self-defense eventually, you know, he's a killer, which is not thing you do as a libertarian. As a libertarian, you can kill whatever you want to on your property and by protecting your life, okay? If someone is attacking you, and even they're running away from you, even they were attacking, you have your capacity and your power and your ability and your rights to protect you from themselves, even they're running from you. And okay, it wasn't the first time he was attacked. It was a short time, you know. And anyone in this situation from, you know, his side and anyone from us, I believe, would do the same. And at the same time, you know, it's just not okay. If libertarian, you should go hardcore and you should say, yeah, this guy have a right. Even I'm disagreeing with him. Even I believe, you know, he is not okay. For example, I'm from Balashev's side, okay? I maybe disagree with him, but still, as a human being, as an individual, as a citizen of Ukraine, he has this right. And there's a problem that this person has protected himself with a knife. It's not okay. In this country, this person and his beloved, you know, his beloved, I think, girlfriend or wife, both of them has a right to, you know, wear a firearm. Both of them has to have this right to protect themselves, not to be afraid to walk on the street. And the same time,
but cases didn't finish yet, so I think everything will be good because I remember this case already was closed, yeah, and now it's open again, yeah, with new.
Yeah, and the problem is the whole thing is going from SBU, which is security service, which is right now head of SBU is a huge friend of Zelensky, and they wouldn't do such move without approval from a president. And if they have, you know, approval from the president, it may play out badly. So, you know, if you remember the folks who were accused of killing the journalist, you know, they're nationalists and volunteers from ATO, are still in the prison. You remember there was a case and the folks who were saying that, you know, they were not involved, and you should go and Google that. Fortunately, I don't remember the surname, but they're still in prison. And you can see the really bad tendencies of the folks who are, you know, openly nationalistic or, you know, openly anti-president are going into prison. And, you know, it's just not a good tendency. It's only first year. So,
So do you think it's going to evolve? Do you think it's going to go that way? Do you think like this tendency showing that these people might be, again, I don't know whether they're guilty or not. I don't know that. And you don't know that probably, but
sure.
do you think that this is the case? Do you think that's an attack on the nationalist movements and on the patriots?
First of all, I wouldn't say, you know, have an equal mark between two. Not all nationalists are patriots and all patriots are nationalists, obviously. So,
okay.
But on the second thought, if you see who is the target, you know, we still have folks who are, for example, organizing pro-Russian protests in Kharkiv or, you know, on the Freedom. They're not walking free. They're walking freely in the Kharkiv. We have folks who are shooting on the Maidan who are walking freely. We can see a huge number of corruption folks who are still. And you are starting, you know, this national campaign by discrediting army and volunteers. What can I say right now? They're really afraid of this institution, and it's from their point of view, it's a fair call, because if you look who are most trusted by people in this country, it's army, it's volunteers, and it's people who are serving in churches, basically clergy. So these three groups are most respected and most trusted in this country. And this is actually a bad mix. It's possibly may lead to a military dictatorship. It will face, big economic downfall. And from that perspective of view, for example, Avakov come to you and say, okay, so you will have a big problems in the next elections. Maybe you will not survive them because there are a huge number of these evil army folks who want to, destroy you. And you will, react in such way. I wouldn't say it's a good way to react, but for you as a president who are afraid of these people, it's a pretty logical thing to do. I'm not assuming all of that, okay? I just my own maybe opinion, okay? So,
absolutely.
So yeah, but in the same time, we're in a desperate situation where we can, new results of the polls and support of the pro-Russian parties are not really good. And in such way, you will have this, basically weaponized minority from people who know how to use these weapons from a military conflict, from war with Russia, are right now sitting and just not getting what the hell is going on. They were not fighting for it. And for example, if next elections will, show the huge support from, for, party of Shari or any pro-Russian folks like OPZZ or other, this minority may actually act out badly. And we will actually start the most, I would say, dangerous part is a part of violence, because policy, any politics and any policy in politology is a way of solving conflicts without killing other people. Because, in medieval times or times before democracies, monarchs said, yeah, I don't like you. You should be killed. And he was killed. And the whole idea of vendetta was started, the whole mechanism. Yes. Right now, we have really unstable situation in which, in my opinion, we can, really fast step on this, landmine of vendettas and, killing each other. And it's really, really dangerous thing to do. I'm not really.
Yeah. Here's the comment by Anastasia Kucherenko. She's also a member of the Ukrainian Students for Freedom. She's from Mariupol. She's saying it could be good only with the support of society. And that's, the last question, and then Michael and Igor, I'll just give the floor to you. What's interesting is that how are you, for example, you are in power. How are you going to implement all of these things, not in power, but let's imagine, how are you going to implement all of these things, all of these libertarian ideas? Are you going to be like that dictator who's going to be doing all of these things, or you're going to be explaining people why it's important and telling people that, hey, here's the thing, that's what we have to do? Or you're going to be like a strong hand trying to do good?
No, surely not. I mean, it's a bad idea, because if you choose this way for yourself, eventually you will not have pension, okay? Dictators usually don't die in their beds. They're usually killed. Or,
what if we take an example of Singapore, for example, which is not a democratic country, but their economy is like strong and powerful, but...
Wonderful. But does Singapore has the same history that we do?
Yeah, this is what I'm asking you.
No, they don't. And the institutions, the economic institutions and the cultural institutions are all different. That's why I'm saying, for example, in South Korea, they have this oligarchy clan who is controlling the whole country, and they're flourishing. While in Ukraine, we have several oligarchy clans who are controlling Ukraine. We're really poor. It depends. It depends on culture, and depends on behavior, and depends on understanding and the philosophy. It depends on a lot of things. And Ukraine dictatorship will not work. I mean, come on, we don't have properly made roads, and you want to make some, if you dictator make some concentration camps. Really? Yeah. I mean, they will not stand. Ukrainians just are not good administrators. So no, you have to, if you are a president, you have to understand, as Zelensky was actually picturing himself during the election campaign. He was saying, I'm going in power only for 5 years, and I'm going really, really, hurting things for Ukrainians as a land market, pension reform, cutting expenses. And he was saying, yeah, I understand. I'm like, political kamikaze. But at the same time, he's not. He is not, and he will not do what he was promised, because the first 100 days and the first year was the most important part that he missed, and he will not any chance to be better, unfortunately, for all of us. So at the same time, I think it's the only thing these folks from military, from post-Maidan thing, volunteers, the people who are fighting for this country and dying for this country, the only thing they want is justice. Because for them, it's really, really unjust that they were fighting for so long. And at the same time, they don't have anything from the government. They're not talking about money, okay? They were not fighting for money. They were not talking about some social guarantees. They're thinking about justice. They're saying why these folks are still out. We're seeing them on the front, on the other side, these supporters of a dictatorship over Russia, the supporters of Russia in Ukraine, who want to destroy our nation, our freedom, and our beliefs. And all these folks are still walking around, talking around, or even sitting in the parliament. And they start asking questions, what's all about? And after Maidan, if you name, I don't know, one judge, one prosecutor, or one big oligarch who is imprisoned in Ukraine because of our cases, there's just not any case. And the question is for justice. They're wanting this. And therefore, I will just really, drop one thing that you should know. All ideologies on this planet, all of them, based on one of three main components. It's either justice, which fascism, National Socialism, this right dictatorship is based on justice. You have freedom with libertarianism and liberalism and democracy, so on, everything like that. And you have equality. You can have mix of two, but now a mix of three, okay? And have the equality is all about socialism and communism and redistribution, everything like that. You have three ideas. And Ukraine, the core thing that all people want is justice. And we have these military folks who will return from war with basically their weapons and are really good organized. And I'm asking you a question. If we will face new elections and these folks will not like it, what will happen? And I just will, have the answer for all of you. And maybe the whole thing that Russian propaganda is picturing in Ukraine about this junta and about this, dictatorship of military may actually come to power if we will just do the same as we have right now. So,
but don't you think that actually the realistic power that the representatives of the military have are not enough to combat, let's say, a passive voting audience? That the turnout of people who will come to vote and not give a damn or just not even be very well versed in politics will outweigh those guys.
Well, the problem is they will not go to elections. The problem, when you seize power, you just capture it by force. That's it.
So do you see that sort of scenario happening here in Ukraine?
Yeah, for sure.
On a nationwide scale, I mean,
sure.
That's realistic?
I mean, look at like that way. Okay, during the Maidan, we have shown that we don't have really powerful policy in this country. There are no way how whole government, whole nation, bureaucracy, all this Yanukovych folks with guns was just useless against, 1,000, 2,000 of folks standing in the center of the country on the main square. They were powerless. So eventually we don't have any power inside the country with physical power which can stop 300, 400 really organized and good equipped folks. On the other hand, we have really, really a lot of folks who are coming from a battleground, from a war. And if you look, they're wonderful. I don't remember research paper, but there was a research paper when right after the war stops or go in a cold zone where there's not really conflict inside the country, the influence of the whole military groups and the veterans are just booming. You can see it in Italy after First World War, because Italy actually was a winner, Italy was on the winner's side. But at the same time, Mussolini... Italy, the fascist Italy. Italy was on the winner's side after First World War. And
winner?
Yes, yeah. Italy was a winner in the First World War. They weren't losing.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then Mussolini came to power and basically seized the power without any elections by force of folks from a military. He was just going and marching and capturing the Rome. And at the same time, you can see it in Germany, which actually failed war. And yes, you can say it was elections, but the whole elections was mastered by wonderful and powerful organizations of folks who was from military. And the military was the supporters. Even in Russia, If you see who was first supporters of Putin, when he was appointed as a prime minister, he went to the three things. He wasn't going in a hospital, he wasn't going in a church, he was going on aircraft to shake hands with military, he was going on a submarine, and he was going, I think, to FSB. So on the first day appointed as a prime minister, he showed, I'm your folk. I'm folk of people who has arms. And it was meant actually a really smart political movement, because after the first Chechen war, there was a huge we have the same, this idea that justice should be placed, because we're a huge empirical country. We was powerful Soviet Union, and right now some Chechnya beat our asses. So we have to go and we have to capture Crimea, we have to reestablish Soviet Union. And all this impulse was made by actually folks from the military. You shouldn't, deny this. You should just go and watch who was the first thing that Putin was doing. He was doing privileges to army to keep it safe, to keep his power safe. The only thing that saves us right now from this scenario is in the Soviet Union, after the Zhukov was kicked off basically the high Olymp of power, because he was trying to become a head of the government after Khrushchev, but he was kicked. After this thing, the whole KGB actually started to destroy an army from inside. Actually, it's one of the main reasons why Soviet Union basically lost war to some Afghanistan, because army was destroyed by KGB from inside, because everyone was afraid that army folks will go and capture power and start another crazy world war. So in the same time, it's only thing that helps us that our army is actually destroyed by a really long time, and after Soviet Union was destroyed, even more powerful. It's helped us, they don't have unity inside them. But we have this thing you call Dobrobate, which is actually volunteers who went in 2014-15, who are really far right, far nationalistic, with capability to kill people actually, and they are really united, around ideas of justice. So in the same time, I would say this scenario may come from a folks who are Avakov is targeting right now, who is trying to, go and have them in prison. So possibly you have, and it's dangerous, we have all our center of decisions inside one city. I mean, if you capture Kiev, eventually you're right now a legitimate government, because you have cabinet of minister, you have a presidency or office of president, you have a Verkhovna Rada, all in one square. You can walk literally from one side to another. And it's a really dangerous thing that was made by purpose in Soviet Union in order to oppress any movement of people, as was done in Hungary, for example, when there was.
Daniil, I'm sorry to interrupt. Here's one question from a person who's watching this live.
But you would say that you will give your questions to other folks. I mean, you're a liar. Actually.
Absolutely, I'm lying here. I'm a dictator. I gave some time to talk to Michael, but yeah,
but actually no.
But just one thing to ask, and I cannot not ask this question. Anastasia is right in here. What about weapons? I'm not sure what I think she means, are you for or against that? What about weapons? And is it possible to solve problems without it?
Okay.
So yeah, the first, what about them? Are you for or against this from my side? And is it possible to solve problems without it?
Okay, so there was a lot of debates about Second Amendment in America, right? Second Amendment, they say that every person should have a right to bear firearms in order to protect themselves. So, and the whole debate is just again that, well, you shouldn't have, this semi-automatic rifle or assault rifle as AR-15 to protect yourself. It's just ridiculous. Who do you protect yourself from? A bunch of crazy zombies or something? But the idea of Second Amendment is
something is happening with the microphone, so
you're back.
We can see you moving, but we can't hear anything you're saying. Do you guys have the same problem?
No.
Yeah.
I cannot.
I can't hear.
Yeah, same here.
Right, because we can see that there's something moving, but no signal, or the microphone keeps.
No. The thing is, we have AirPods which are connected to the notebook, and every time you launch them, they're connected automatically, even though if you're some in other rooms. So
okay.
That somebody's just connected to AirPods, therefore your volume and my volume was going somewhere else. So yeah. So yes, the main idea of a Second Amendment is not to protect yourself from other persons, protect yourself from a tyranny of a government. So the whole idea was that you will not, and it actually was a true United States of America, you will not have a dictatorship in the country where you have a lot of rich and powerful folks with a lot of guns who will go and just kill you because of a dictator. So, and the only thing that I want to put here and to visualize it, the idea that the president has to elect only for 2 terms were not in the Constitution before the mid of the 20th century. So only in the middle of 20th century, after Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the amendment to the Constitution was in place, an old president was going only for 2 terms because only one idea, because these folks will see it as an act of tyranny, will go in Washington, D.C., grab you out of the Capitol and kill you and your administration. So the whole idea of going only for 2 terms was based on the fear that people will not understand it and will not accept it, because the first president of the United States of America, George Washington, went out of the office on his 2nd term, and he said, okay, folks, now you should do the same. But everyone could try, yeah, you know, I wouldn't go out, I would still be a president, but no one in the history of the United States of America eventually did it, because all of them were afraid. So from this point of view, I believe that people have to have this power to bear arms, and we've witnessed it in Revolution of Dignity I was part of, where people didn't have any capabilities to shoot back to folks who were shooting from sniper rifles, okay? So we have to this idea that all people of this country has to have this right to bear these firearms. And secondly, which is not, if you look at it from logical side of view, right now you can have not a semi-automatic, but you know, a really, really powerful rifle, like really one, like a K-47, but without the semi-automatic mechanism. So basically you can eventually, as a hunter, buy it. So you can have a hunter license and have really, really powerful firearms. I mean, sniper rifles, you can have a AK-47, you can have R-15 without, so really, really powerful things. And at the same time, you don't have a right to buy a small pistol to protect yourself. Eventually, in this country, people believe that it's much more safer for people to have a license to have really powerful arm, and at the same time doesn't have a license to have a really small pistol that can protect, for example, your girlfriend or yourself, or you can carry around just in order to have feel yourself protected in around really good, you know, regions of this country or your own city, which doesn't make any sense. So if we're saying that in this country we have this license for a really big arms, why shouldn't I have this license for the same arms but small? And the answer is because the Ministry of Internal Affairs has a corruption scheme around it. So basically they're having this award arms to people. So basically they're giving you as an award and you can carry it all around because it's your award, it's your award weapon. And it's basically a huge corruption scheme, and you're paying really like thousands of bucks to have this small arm. In the same time, you can officially have a big arm, which doesn't make any sense. So if we're saying that it's okay to have a big arm, then we have to say that it's okay to have a small arm to protect yourself. So from my point of view, from philosophical point of view, and from libertarian point of view, you have to have this capacity of people, you know, who train to have license. I'm not for, you know, Second Amendment for everyone, okay? I'm not believing that going in the Walmart and buying your AK-47 from some parts of Texas without proper screen. They have some screen, but it's not really one. It's a good thing. I'm from an idea that the, you know, armor, like, you know, any rifle should be treated as a car, for example. We have licensing for driving a car because eventually by driving a car, you can kill other folks, right? You can just, you know, if you don't know how to drive a car, you are a big danger to other people. So the same thing have to be with arms. You have to have a license, you have to go through trainings, through psychological screening, through physical screening. You have to have zero record of, you know, crimes in the past. So it's all have to be done. So I'm for licensing as it is right now. But at the same time, I say, okay, but if we go just logical, if you have this right to have this really powerful arm, you should have this right to have really small arm. So, and again, about if somebody didn't understand what I was saying before, I'm not a huge fan of these folks capturing power, okay? Any dictatorship is much worse than even poor democracy, okay? So we have a wonderful example of China as a huge, powerful dictatorship with the whole things and even really powerful capitalism. And we have weak democracy as India, for example, which is eventually the biggest democracy on the planet by a number of people. And you can see that sometimes, okay, but there's China and there's India with different life sets, and democracy is basically in this fight is losing. But if we look on the long run and stability of whole system, India is much, much more stable than China, because any reform in China can face a huge backlash from a party. It can face a huge backlash inside, and like the whole reforms can be stopped. So in the same time, I would say democracies are much, much preferable than any dictatorship, even rich dictatorship, because always a question why we should have, okay, is, for example, be rich in Singapore but not free, or being free in Ukraine but not rich. Eventually you want both, and if you want both, you will have to go with democratic steps, because Singapore gold they have right now is not really stable, because if they have some oppression or some revolution and the government will not respond properly, they will have a huge mess, like in Venezuela or Libya or any other country on the planet. So dictatorship doesn't have checks and balances, while democracy has some checks and balances. Of course, poor democracy is much better than even rich dictatorship. Yeah. So
interesting. Okay, guys. Anything you want to ask? Any counter?
Michael had a question a long time before you started.
Absolutely.
Before we start the podcast, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I had one question, but probably as I see according to the timing, it's probably going to be the last one. But the question was this: working in your line of work, have you been approached by people who were, like, let's say, representing some kind of political powers or business that wanted you to specifically intervene on their behalf? Does or doesn't that happen in maybe in the line of work that you do? And what's the approach that you would take in a situation like that?
Okay, actually a good question. So I would say I'm not a lobbyist, first of all, okay? I don't have this professionally, because Ukrainian Economic Freedom Foundation, for example, they are professional lobbyists. So they are doing this professionally. So there are big companies who are lobbying their interests through them. I'm not that kind of folk, okay? I'm just doing more about education and showing people that they can change something. But at the same time, the main thing that I will draw my red line, will this interference put more government more in power? So for example, there are folks who are saying, okay, we are steel company and we want to abolish some taxation only for us, but not for other folks. And you are saying, well, it's bad, but it's much better than I would say, we want government to oppress other instead of us, okay? So my red line is really, if it hurts other businesses directly. So for example, if company goes and says, so we want government to close this company because this company is bad in our opinion, I will not go in that case. But this company said, we want to have more, lower taxes on our industry, or have even lower taxes on a group of our companies, for example. I would say, yes, why not? If it's not a big problem for Ukrainian people. So first of all, I would say, as an elected member, I would say, first of all, I would respect my constituency interests. So, for example, if I am elected from some, constituency, some part of Kiev, I would respect their interests first. Second, I would respect interests of Ukrainian people, and thirdly, interests of business. So if business passes these two things, for example, they say, we want to build this factory in other part of country, which will not hurt a lot of people or will bring them more jobs, I would say, definitely, I will help you with that. But at the same time, I would say, we want to build some really toxic thing in your constituency, which will hurt a lot of people. And eventually we will try to use police force to oppress other companies. I would say, folks, I will not help you in that thing. So
can you maybe answer it close to this question? Like, what do you think about Privatbank? Yeah. And kind of situation when people growing their own business, like in a good way or in a bad way, it's another question. Yeah, but if government thinking that this business start to be a kind of the fundament of the people, yeah, government can take it to itself. Yeah. What do you think? Like how business like actually can, I don't know, develop in Ukraine if you know that in some moment the government can take it in any moment when it decided to nationalize it.
Yeah, sure. Actually, the whole Privat story was a mess from the start, because Right now, I would say hell no to Kolomoisky if he would say, hey guys, you know, I want my bank back. But the whole idea actually started long before the nationalization. The whole problem in Ukraine, as in any developing country, and we have a really, really bad situation with the bank system. So concerning to any regulation on this planet, you have two types of regulation actually. First regulation is minimum standard. When you say, okay, in order to sell these goods, you have to have this standard of safety, you have to have this number of, you know, drugs inside your pill, you have this, so minimum standard. So something you have to pass, threshold you have to pass to sell something. And the second part of regulation is actually openness of information. For example, you say you have to say to your customer everything which is connected to your good. For example, you can see it on the medicine. On the medicine, you have both. On the medicine, you have a minimum standard. We say you have to have this, this, and this in your medicine in order to name it in such way. And at the same time, you have to say to your customer why you actually put inside your medicine. So like both of them combined. In banking sector, in my opinion, and I'm basing my opinion on the idea of, there's an author, he was in International Monetary Fund. His name is Robert Anderson. He is, I don't know, in English, maybe it's his book called Just What the Government Can Do in Poor Countries to Help Business, something like that. So just go and Google him, Robert Anderson, the economics or something like that. And he's saying that in poor countries, the only thing you have to have is not a minimum standard for banks, but the openness of information. And the thing he's saying that people and the market have to decide which bank is reliable or unreliable. Because in Ukraine, we have only minimum standard, actually. They're not, they're not saying all information to us as a customers. They're hiding it to themselves, and they're like saying only to national bank. And a national bank as an authority have to decide whether this bank should be in the place or should be closed, okay? And this is not a good thing to have, because national bank eventually, if some bank as private bank was doing for 5 or 6 years, are violating minimum standard. National bank will go, okay, folks, you have to have your minimum standard in place. And private bank said, I don't care. And if national bank will go to people and have a press conference and say, okay, folks, private bank doesn't have enough, for example, capacities to pay credits or loans back, people will have the money from the bank, and bank eventually will collapse, and the government will have to pay money to people who didn't have ability to have the money back. So basically, national banks are captured by banks. So national banks can't just go on the street and say, this bank is not reliable, this bank is not reliable, and this bank is not reliable. Because eventually, these banks will collapse because people will have panic, they'll have the money out of banks, and banks will just be destroyed, as almost happened with private bank, okay? On the other hand, what you can have that all banks have to say to their customers everything which is connected to the style of business they have. Who is receiving most of credit portfolio? What is their capacities? What is their inflow, outflow? So any other like information that they have in a bank have to be released to the public. And then nobody will have their money in the private bank 6 years before, because everyone will see, okay, this guy is Kolomoisky, he's controlling bank, he is having this money out to his own companies, he's doing money laundering for guys from Russia and from Arab countries who are not in the law. We will see it, all of us will see it, because everything will be open to the public, and YouTubers or some expert or analytics will say on the channels, on every channel, private bank is bad, and that is that. On the other hand, government shouldn't guarantee any money that we have in the bank, because right now, if bank collapses, for example, the government will pay your money back. Eventually, they will pay the richest folks their money back, right? But the richest folks have the incentive.
In a law, yeah, but of course we will not have it.
No, but right now it's already in place. You have this fund of guarantee of something.
Yeah, but you understand that we had the same fund, like our parents had the same fund with in 90s, and when all banks collapsed, yeah, they had only the paper.
By the same time, the International Monetary Fund requires us to pay people their money back, and we can see it with Nadra Bank, which collapsed, and people has their money back, and eventually, most of the people I'm saying not the folks like us, okay? I'm saying about really, really rich folks. They're having their money back, and the problem with that because they will have incentive to invest in risky banks in the future. Because if you know that your money will be back from a government, you're not risking anything. You'll just, yeah, there is some Russian bank of Ukraine that have 30% years in your deposit, and say, yeah, hell yeah, I'll invest. I don't care because government will pay me back. You see the problem? So I think these guarantees should be demolished. On the other hand, we should understand that if we invest in bank, it's like investing in other person's business, right? Like investing and trusting other person's business. And at the same time, right now we're in this mess with private bank. And of course, right now I'm supporting government and say, folks, we have to keep this bank to ourselves. But from a libertarian point of view, I mean, even logical point of view, they didn't have any authority to do that actually. Because if you look on the whole, thing they were doing, actually, they were doing like in a night from I think Sunday to Monday, Poroshenko gathered with all like military folks on a Security Council, and then decided we have to seize bank, which is actually looks really like capturing bank from like in 90s. So it wasn't really good, I would say. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's ambivalent. We have to have a bank system, and in the end of the day, if my, for example, ideas will lead us to will not have any banks, it's not actually a bad situation. There is any research paper on this planet that definitely proves that number of big banks in the economy actually affects the economy in a good way. There's just no correlation between number of banks or number of capital in banks and economic growth, like zero. So in the same time, if we will not have any bank sector in Ukraine after reforms and our reprivatization of private and other governmental banks, it's okay. It will not matter in economic scale. Banks are not affecting the economy in such a dramatic way as International Monetary Fund will say. So,
Mm-hmm. Okay. Guys, if you want to...
yeah, can you ask this question? And maybe we'll go to like really, really fast to last topic about election. Yeah, and this case. Yeah, can you ask, Rashid?
Yeah, just one thing I want to ask, because Anastasia wrote, it's kind of difficult to follow all of the comments and all of the questions because we kind of like covered the first topic, then people ask about the previous one. So she's asking, do you think Ukrainians are ready to bear arms like in this sort of situation, following, the question about weapons and all? That's the comment here.
Yeah, really fastly, yes, of course, because there is no culture on this planet that will not be ready for that. Okay, so we don't have a really big problem. We're not. If you travel abroad, you will see Ukrainians. We have some cultural differences that we have from the Soviet Union, but at the same time, we are pretty European and pretty civic. You see, we have actually in Ukraine. If you are saying okay, but there we have a really weak government and people will kill each other on the street. You have to just see our time, I think it was 2014, 3 months, we didn't have any government in this country, okay? We didn't have working army, we didn't have working police force, we didn't have even judges working for 3 months, and nothing dramatic happens, nothing. We actually right now...
Just we lost a few territories.
Well, it was connected to internal aggression, but Ukrainian people wasn't killing, each other. I wasn't going out with my guns, killing Rashid, for example. Okay?
I don't know. I remember the time when I'm kind of afraid to going outside in Kharkiv because like it was everywhere. It was titushki,
Yeah. Well, yes, but titushki was paid by Russians, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, and finally, I would just pick you one point about the government regulations and how we need it, in this idea.
Absolutely.
For I think 2 or 3 months, we didn't have Ministry of Finance in this country, and we didn't have Ministry of Economic Development. So after Milovanov, because he wasn't doing anything, but after him, with new cabinet with Shmyhal, there wasn't, I think, like not for 2 months, but almost 1 month. There was anyone who was in charge of Ministry of Finance and anyone in charge of Ministry of Economic Development, and nothing happens. Nothing dramatic happened with Ukraine. Ukraine still was, growing. Ukraine was still, doing some stuff, and nothing really happens. So if we have such ministries, for example, like it was really funny in today's press conference, Zelensky said, "We cannot find a perfect minister of culture." So right now we don't have a perfect Ministry of Culture. Like Ministry of Culture is not working. Why the hell we need it? I mean, honestly speaking, does university stopped working because of Ministry of Culture, or don't we have museums, or are we killing ourselves, or we forgot our language? So it was a really, finally I would say, and just throw it. So the guy who was doing reforms in Georgia, he said, imagine a situation in which you have ministry and there's Russian rocket, flying all over the country and crashing the ministry and just destroying to the ground with all documents, with all ideas, with all strategy, and maybe some, like all of them inside. So whole ministry is destroyed. If your answer to the next question is, yes, then you don't need it. So the question is, in any way, is your life is the same? So is your life is the same even without a ministry? And if your answer is yes, well, you don't need this ministry at all.
You can ask Poland about this experience, If
they don't have Ministry of Culture? Or what?
No. They had this accident in Russia, if you remember.
Oh, when he was flying over to the what was
shoot them.
Yeah, Russians shoot them. That's a very bold statement. That's a very bold statement to say.
No, I really do believe so. I mean, after Russians are shooting like Malaysia, Boeing, you didn't have any questions about them, okay? So,
yeah, absolutely. So but that's a very weird case.
No,
okay. Can we go to last and maybe in a short topic like this? For me, it's really interesting because all the time I'm like kind of hesitate, kind of, is it for me, is it not for me, kind of some politics, etc. So in a few words, like why decide to go, why you decide to try. I saw your picture kind of for Central Виборча Комісія, and like it's really I don't know why this teenager didn't come to his goal, and I can say that you really changed. But so why you come to this idea, and what you which with result you come up, and why decide about next election?
Yeah, he's basically asking about this whole election process. Your experience in that.
I mean, I have Rashid was it was a witness. I had something like about TEDx about this. It was just like 1 hour of fun about how elections are horrible in Ukraine. So no, I'll really shortly in 2019, when it was like early election was called, I decided to run for Verkhovna Rada. And the main thing when you're running, actually, when you're deciding to go and apply, you don't know who is going to run from your district. I wasn't running with on a party list. I was running from a district side of you. So I was running from a particular part. I know because everyone was saying that there was a guy in my district that I live still. There was a guy who was here for about 10 or 15 years. He's like was re-electing all the time. And he's kind of this baron. He was controlling all businesses, all crime. Everything was connected to him. He was a shady guy who was always switching parties. He was in a Yulia Tymoshenko party, and he switched to another one. He was in Poroshenko party, and he was running as independent. So
we understood.
Yeah, so he's kind of a nomad. So at the same time, I didn't know who was running from Servant of People party in my district. I didn't know this person. And
which district? Excuse me, like
222. It's like in Kiev.
Yeah, but we know about this because Igor and Michael are actually from Kiev, and
I'm
not from Kiev, but Michael is from Kiev, which is Zhulia. What was the name of it?
Of what?
Of your district, like what's the name of it? Zhuyavka, whatever the name of it?
No, it was Zhuliany plus Solominsky rayon.
Zhulian, yes.
But Zhuliany is a city where planes are landing. So it's like it's all connected. Anyway, it's not interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is I was applying in the idea that there may be the only opposition guy on the fields against this folk, and eventually I will not win, of course.
Opposition to who?
To the guy who was here in like 10 years. The guy who was here like for 10 to 15 years.
But In that election, he was from Poroshenko party?
No, he
or
was
which
independent. He was running as an independent. So from himself, which eventually was a good choice because he said, you know, I'm not from the president party. Oh shit, my computer is dying. So
Okay.
yeah, really fastly. Yeah, he was from as independent, and nobody knew who would be on display from a servant people, from a Zelensky party, and there was rumors that nobody will run. Which eventually a good place to go and to capture all opposition. Again, this guy is a young and fresh and blah blah blah. But the main point was to understand how does it work from the inside, not as a staffer, but as a person who is running. So just how to feel it. Yeah, and eventually there was a guy from a Zelensky party who won because of the Zelensky party support. Even he acknowledged, he said, I had something about 5 offline meetings and his Facebook page wasn't really powerful. So he was not really posting stuff. He was just supported because he was from Zelensky party. And he acknowledged that. He's a pretty honest guy. And he is a stand-up comedian in the past. He was just running, it was.
That's good.
Who is it? Can you say?
It's Roman Grishuk. He is from Australia.
Yes.
And he is from KPI, which is a big university down here. And he was, has a good ties to the students movement. So basically, eventually, I was something about 1% votes in the end, something like that. Which
not bad.
If you count actually how much money did we spend, and I was from a start, I was running from a party which named Development. There was a guy who is invest business. Yeah, and he is basically he's pro-market folk who said, yeah, folks, you should run. So I'll sponsor your campaign and everything like that. So if you count how people are counting the effectiveness in the election, they have their budget. And then they have their number of votes and they count how much does each vote cost. So how much
the cost of one lead. Yeah,
1 lead. So basically I had the cheapest lead in Kiev. So it was my own, my own achievement. I had the cheapest lead in Kiev. So eventually, which was working. But in the same time, there's a lot of things to unpack. And I'm really glad that whole majoritarian system is right now back in the past and it's not working and not very suitable. But in the end of the day, yes, it's not really for Ukraine, I believe, right now.
Which political, tools you used in this race?
You mean my program statements or something?
I mean, yeah, something maybe you like because you are young, you kind of decide maybe use something new, on this district. What actually used or what new you bring to this?
Something new you brought to the table, something what you might, involve people to vote for you.
Because I can say
encourage people to vote for you.
I saw the one podcast with this Roman Grishuk here. As for me, it wasn't so bad. And he said a lot of different, I think, smart thing about the government and how it actually works. I don't know in which how it's called community or he now in Verkhovna Rada, what he's responsible for, but
education.
But
I think it's education. But anyways,
and he said a lot of information what I think like a lot of deputies before didn't actually know, and I think like it's really huge competitors you met in this district.
Especially anybody who's from the political major parties, like super difficult to win this campaign or race or elections, whatever, because I know in Kharkiv there was just one person who won it, and his name is Feldman, and he was the only one who won this district in Kharkiv, which is my district, and he eventually happened to be in the parliament. I think there was just one more person, but I do not remember.
It's like few, but
I don't remember. I don't remember his name. Is Daniil? I think he's laptop. Died.
Yeah.
This is why I was like trying to hurry, with the questions and all, but. Okay, so
so we'll wait. Can you ask? Should we wait or?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
We'll wrap up, yeah.
So the thing is this, for people who do not know, is that he's come back. He's come back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, good that you're back. Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Long time no see.
Like
Yeah.
for the third time, but anyways, yeah.
You change device like gloves, you know, like.
Yeah, he
I'm on my phone back. So
yes, good.
Gosh, I'm on my phone.
Yeah, we're not gonna keep you for a very long time, but you know, for this very specific question about your campaign and
Okay, we
everything.
will continue this podcast till energy will finish in
Yeah,
Ukraine. Yeah,
yeah.
you will recharge
So
your
this
old
whole
devices.
Okay, so really fastly, you decide how to build your campaign, and it's really important to underline right from the start. You decide how to build your campaign based on who are your competitors and who are their electoral base, who are they fighting for, because you cannot fight for all votes of all people, not just working. So I decided to put my votes on a possible Golos party, which is like Vakarchuk thing.
Mhm.
And because there was no one from them in the district, and who are these folks? They are it's a middle class people who are educated and who knows that you have to be anti-Russian. So this main statements are economic freedom, your clear statement that you're anti-Russian because certain of the people didn't have that in their program, because the whole idea of the peace and the whole idea of compromising, there was not really resembling these folks who would vote, for example, for Poroshenko, or who would vote, for example, for Vakarchuk, right? So this has pro-Ukrainian, really hardcore pro-Ukrainian folks. So I decided to specifically target them. And with these ideas, I just went and all my program was based on it. So yes, I was doing that. But on the other hand, for example, if we have only me and Andrievsky's main ideas, yeah, I'm young, yeah, I'm inexperienced, but I'm not a stealer, okay? I don't have any money that I stole from the government budget, and yeah, I'll have this integrity that this guy.
So can I ask? So you decide that your main competitor is from Golos, yeah?
No, I will step on their electoral base because there was no one from Golos on this district.
Absolutely. So you sort of bet on Golos, this audience, so that they could vote for you, because you're just the only person who's delivering sort of the same message the Golos is delivering. In some cases.
Yeah.
Okay.
You deliver. Who is what's your main message? For example, I wouldn't advocate for government interference. I would advocate for economic freedom, and I say who may understand what I'm fucking talking about. I would say that these folks, this is my target audience that I will work for. Okay.
Yeah. Don't you think? For example, I want to ask you one thing about your campaign. Do you think that what I remember from your posts on Facebook is that you posted this, the main square in Moscow, which is exploding, and then you had this whole hate coming at you saying, hey, how could you say something like that? It's too nationalistic or anything like that. Did you do that on purpose, or it was just some sort of, just a way to get
was a part of
audience and Poroshenko's audience and voters?
No, I would say no, I wasn't oops, because in 2015 I bought a wonderful magazine which said next time, it was Time magazine, and it was saying the next president of the United States. So it's still election wasn't into place. Okay, so 2015 was really early, and it was with Trump face. And the main idea why Time said that, because Trump is the most controversial person who you may pick, because controversiality right now is selling you much better. Because people are arguing, then saying, yeah, this person is bad, this person is not okay, this person is something, and the whole social media mechanism are basically putting your posts much and much up in people's feed, and you're going out of your bubble. For example, if you're saying that all people will like, for example, yeah, we have to have high pensions, for example, right? Say, yeah, maybe, why not? But if you're saying, we have to, for example, cattle prices, and some folks say, what the hell is this folks talking about? And eventually it will make you higher and higher and higher. And the main point is, how will you make this, interest to you, even negative one, to your leads? How will you transfer one to another? And it's a really important point that where every politician has answer on their own. Trump is just saying, yeah, there's some, folks who are in other states who understand us, and he's basing on his base and saying, yeah, I'm controversial, but I'm the guy who will do the job. Zelensky did the same. He said, yeah, I'm controversial, but I'm anti-Poroshenko. So the main saying point, I'm anti-establishment, I'm anti-president, okay? I was saying I'm anti-Russian, therefore I'm anti-Slogana Rada. So if you're not sure that you should vote for example, Grishuk, because he wasn't really clearly pro-Ukrainian, because the whole party and his answers was, just shady. Yeah, we should, blah, blah, but we cannot trust him because of Zelensky and Zelensky idea of peace. I'm saying right now, I'm not from party of the peace, I'm from party of war, okay? So it was actually made on purpose, the same as a provocateur movement by power of self-defense or something with naked girls, something like that, which is actually as provocateur as well. We didn't have any media on your side, don't have any brand. As Zelensky, you have to be as provocateur as possible. And it's what is really, really frustrating me right now, how people are getting angry, for example, about Gordon and his interview with Russians. And eventually Gordon making more and more popular inside pro-Russian, actually, audience. He is more and more powerful inside the pro-Russian segment. Eventually, in the next election, I believe he will appear in some, political party list really, really high. So the idea is making your provocateur is not bad. Being provocateur is good. The main thing is not drawing your own red line that you will hold and will protect. Because, for example, if you're posting something bad about racist stuff, right, about black folks, that really, really will not make any benefits to you, but only damage you. The main problem here, you will not have any capacity to protect yourself, and eventually you will say or sorry to people you offended, or just have your words back and not mention it in any time. So the main thing in politics, never apologize and understand what you're talking about, because you're now apologizing and you're never taking your words back because you're like man of the word and blah, blah, blah. You have to draw your own red line, what you're not saying, for example. Because the problem, if you remember, there was a guy from Servant of the People who would say, yeah, to pay for your bills, you have to sell your dog, for example, right? It was a stupid statement that he wasn't any ability to protect. He would say, okay, there are poor people, right? But sometimes they will have to sell something to pay it, and we are working to change it. So he was protecting not really popular position, because his red light's not really, on any side. He was like in 1 week in 2 main scandals. I think it was with this one and some other about another thing. So he was like really, really destroying his political thing. And he was not able, because a huge national, interest was on this guy. Nobody knew him before, and nobody will remember him afterwards. And he didn't use this possibility to bring his own base, to build his own supporters, to say, yeah, we will be, I was joking, okay? He will say, I was joking, and he was a provocateur who was always saying some, stupid stuff. And he will have his supports eventually. He will have his supporters who will say, yeah, it's really funny. It's like, alt-right thing to say whatever he wants to, but he's a real man. So he didn't have a capacity to draw this provocateur from interest on his own behalf. So no, it was made on purpose. I wasn't apologizing. I was moving even further, even pushing this agenda, because it's really, really, really popular actually. And this was I was facing up. So it was radical for some, but they were not my electoral base.
Absolutely.
Okay. So yeah, I have a lot of questions like about did you want to be a kind of a new Trump and making some hype on some different topics, what actually like on the top. I just want to like finalize maybe with last words that what you can advise, like what would you maybe changed in your strategy on this moment, if you knew before the result, maybe like what you want to really do in another way, because as I understood, like the main idea was kind of the win, not just a try. And what can you advise to the people like who can listen it and
write down the notes, write down everything what you're saying and run for the president or Verkhovna Rada, whatever.
No, actually, next elections we're going to see really interesting elections is actually the local elections.
Actually,
are you gonna take part in that? Are you gonna take in the?
I just want to say that your microphone, I think, work on your phone, not on your headphones.
Really?
Actually.
So you can hear me from here?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That's.
It's good that we understood it on the last 2 minutes on the podcast.
But.
So,
it wasn't.
That's okay.
It wasn't like that. It wasn't like that before. So I think it's
yeah. We hope.
Try.
We hope it.
Yeah.
So.
Try. Yeah. Yeah. So next elections that you're gonna see, it's local elections. And on this one, I think you should try yourself really hardly. So this one, they're not requiring a lot of money. Okay, that's the first thing to understand. They're not requiring a lot of, any political agitation. It's a lot of moving your legs. It's actually requires you to go from door to door and to sell yourself and to say, yeah, we have to vote. I have to be on the board. This, and this. So third thing, understand your sales points. What are you selling? Who are you? Why people should vote, especially for you? Because if you're going not from political party, for example, right? If you're going from a district or from local elections, people vote not actually they will vote for your party for sure, because they will not have enough time, but they will vote for your personality as well. Mm-hmm. And the thing with Roman, for example, in my district he was a really not a sticky guy, he was a guy who would not have anything sticks to him. He was almost protected from the whole attacks and scandals that were trying to attach to him. So he was just a, guy you wouldn't believe. And it was his main sales point, because there's a shady guy who is in power right now, who is there are hundreds of questions to him. And there's this funny stand-up comedian who doesn't know much, and he's honest about it, who doesn't understand what he's going to do with his power, but honestly, he wants to do something. And this idea that he doesn't have anything negative to him was his sales point, number one. Understand yourself. What are you selling? Who are you? And what people will actually see from you from the first time they meet you. Will they see the normal guy who's walking around, who is using subway stations, who is just from the people? Or will they see someone, smart enough, with a higher education from outside, with some unique experience, or maybe we'll see the military guy? So you have to say, what are you selling? Second part said, who are you selling to? Who is your key audience? Who are you going to talk to? I will not spend any second of my time to go and talk to people who believe that Russia should be in power in Ukraine. I will not spend a second of my time to go to and talk to people who believe that peace should be, in any cost, even if we surrender. It's not just my base. I will not go there from a principal position, and I go there and will not go through my pragmatical position. I will not just work with this base in, any condition. It's the second one. First one, who are you? Second one, who basically are your electorate? Who are these folks? Who are you talking to? Mm-hmm. Third part is a team. It's a really, really essential and important part to be ready, to understand what are you going to do from day to day to day to day, to have a team of folks who will jump in, who will help you, who will spread the word about you, who will agitate about you, who will do propaganda on the place, people who will actually be your supporter and your stuff. And actually, no one on this election had this properly, because this election was early election, and nobody had any time to gather proper amount of people with proper understanding what to do and proper education. So on this election, it's vice versa. Everybody knew the date, and all one knew it in half of the year. We will have really, local elections, and everyone is ready right now. So if you want to jump in, you have to start from day tomorrow. So gather people around you. Third one, really important one, plan. You have to have a plan. You have to understand, this week I'm doing that, this week I'm doing that, this week I'm meeting with these folks, 6 folks, and these folks. And the last one, but not least, really important, resource, money. You need them, actually, because our idea was, if, for example, I was running for the parliament, and it will be this only me and this, controversial, shady guy who is right now in power. We understood that we thought that he will not use internet. So he will use the billboards, he will use this agitation, babulkas who is standing and giving some merchandise. He will try to buy voters. he will not use internet. And it was a horrible mistake. It was a horrible miscalculation. Homemade budget went solidly, almost solidly, on sponsoring my online campaign, because online is full with, I mean, it's just full of advertisements. You will not have any possibility to go through them without a normal budget. And targeting is costing you a lot. On the election campaign right now is nobody right now, and on the next election after that will do billboards. Everyone will do something on the internet, some challenges, some YouTube stuff, Facebook, digital. Digital is the king of this election, and the next election, and election after election. You have to understand that. And for example, my colleague from organization who is now head of Ukrainian Economic Freedom Foundation, he was running in rural area in a Vinnytsia Oblast. And he said that in rural area, everybody is, actually watching Facebook. And he said, oh, they'll use that guy from the Facebook advertisement. So they understand you. So they see you. And in rural areas, it's much cheaper than big cities. But I think the people who are watching us are mostly from the big cities. And in these cities, it will cost you a lot. Just trust me. It will cost you enormous amount of money. And digital media will, I think, maybe your main part of your budget. And last, my advice from a whole my experience, I have on the election side, I have zero offline meetings with voters. Zero. Whole idea of my campaign was to use maximum online and don't have the offline connection, because it doesn't lead to perfect leads. It just doesn't generate votes in the end of the day. And actually it's true, because we have other folks from other districts who was running almost on the same agenda that I had. They had almost the same situation with the opposition and the main guy who was in power, and they didn't earn anything close to my number of votes, which is not a lot. Okay, I'm not saying that I'm a winner. I'm a horrible loser. Okay, but at the same time, don't say that the gathering of people will help you to generate votes. But in the same time, and the most important part, you have to have these three leads to have this person possibly think that this person should vote for you. First of all, they have to read or see something about you. So some should be television or local media or Facebook that should read about you. Then they have to see you in person, but in my opinion, it should be more digital. They should go and see more about you, to study more about you. Who hell are you? What you are a person? And the third one, but not the least, they have to hear about you from other person. And on this part, you need your network, you need your staff, you need people who will agitate for you and have propaganda for you in their families, their homes, their districts, their everything. Like they will spread the word about you. But first part is a digital thing. They have to, or even media, you have to have some connections. I don't know, because I didn't have it at all. To media, you have to go and give some interviews, maybe have some scandal thing around you. Second, you have to have really clear background. Person who should go and read about it and didn't find anything bad about you, and should find something even pluses about, for example, like higher education outside of Ukraine, or maybe you did something good for districts, or you're a volunteer or something, or you're cleaning parks or something like that. And a third, but not the least, they have to hear about it. These three leads possibly may lead that this person will vote for you. That's it.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you. It was a really interesting podcast for me.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's one of the podcasts when actually the how it's called, the leads, or leader, how it's called, ведущая,
The
MC,
host?
I don't know. The host, actually could be disappeared,
I mean,
like,
that was amazing. That was really cool. Yeah, I mean,
I'm doing your job. You have to.
yeah, he's doing our job.
Yeah.
We're just asking one question, and he's going all around, and then it's about like 2 hours long. Yeah.
Okay.
But that was
so
super
guys,
cool.
thank you for your attention. Thank you, Daniil, for this, for answer the question and like for your work too. Hope to see you soon, guys, and Daniil. Michael, Rashid.
Yeah. Thanks again. Thanks for joining us and explaining that in like very understandable terms. So I think it's really important work that you're doing, that you're bringing this kind of abstract to most people, I guess, field to something that, you know, people can understand in layman's terms. So thanks.
All of us like doing like, you know,
Yeah,
nobody,
licking his ass. You know why we're doing it?
Bad. Like some of us usually like in this scenario should like send some, I don't know, bad controversial topics, but today, so
you know what I want to say is that there's just one thing. I do know that there are a lot of topics we could talk about and cover and ask you and maybe have a conversation or debate. This is why I do hope that it's not going to be our last time we're having this conversation, so that we could go again and we could talk any day when you are available and when we are, obviously, and have this
each podcast.
Yeah, and having this cool dude, stop. I mean, I'm talking to Daniil right now, so that's the thing. That would be super cool, and you know, I would appreciate that, and we would appreciate it with the people who are watching us.
Sure. Just really quick advertisement. Everyone who is watching should go to studfreedom.org and just Google Stud Freedom in a Facebook. You will see our Facebook pages and a website. And just go there, click like button, and like all our memes, and be with us, and stay tuned, because I think we're gonna start a leadership program application form in something 2 or 3 weeks, depending on the current time. So leadership program will be in place. We will meet this summer. We'll have a wonderful time, and thank you so much for your time. See you around.
Yeah, so we've tagged your organization and all of these things you said. And guys, thanks a lot for watching, and thanks a lot for the questions and comments and everything you have here, and see you very soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
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 I've stopped the live stream. Oh, okay.